Julie, why is this topic, daring leadership, important in the grants profession?
I'm so glad you asked. So I have a background in grants. I was in this space for about 10 years. And one of the things that I found is that we are leaders. For one, I just want to name the definition of a leader in Brené's work is anyone who takes responsibility for finding potential in people or processes and has the courage to develop that potential. So when we think about grant professionals, even if we're not in a role of authority and supervising someone, we are leaders and we are facilitating projects, programs, descriptions that represent our organization, and we're putting them out into, the funder space. And with that responsibility really comes, I think sometimes it's called, leading from behind, or, there's a second term for it, but it really involves leadership without having that position of authority at a lot of times. And daring leadership is about grounding yourself in what's most important to you, so that you can show up and speak up when you need to. So it's about having courage in your leadership. And I think that, at least from my time in the grants profession, it's incredibly helpful to build that skill set and that courage and willingness to speak up and speak out when we need to, even if we don't have position power necessarily in our roles.
Oh, I can see that. I know that happens in marketing as well. So
Yes.
So what inspired you to become a Dare to Lead facilitator?
So I know I'm not the only Brené Brown fan. There's tons of them in this space, especially in our grant world. But I was a huge fan of Dr. Brené Brown. When I became a consultant 5 years ago, she was in my ear. I was listening to her work over and over and over. And I really needed that courage and that encouragement to make the leap.
Okay.
And I found that I learned about this opportunity to actually facilitate her work. And I wanted to bring her work very specifically into the nonprofit space, where we do have to have hard conversations about, we steward resources from an affluent group to serve an underserved group. And there's sometimes a tension there. And I just really wanted to help the people that make up our organizations, build their capacity to use their voice.
Definitely. And sometimes it seems like the quieter people get kind of walked over as well. So perfect.
Yeah. Yes.
Why are values important and how does it connect to leadership?
Yes. So that's one of the great things about this daring leadership courage skill set is there's 4 components: vulnerability, rumbling with vulnerability, living into your values, braving trust, and learning to rise, which is the resilience piece. And I love that she names one important piece of courage building or daring leadership is actually being clear on what your values are, what they mean to you, and what does it actually look like behavior wise for you to live into those values. So I really like the self-discovery piece of it. And if you don't know what's most important to you, it's hard to kind of stand up and speak out sometimes. So there's a real strong link between having that clarity and being able to lead.
Very nice. Brené is known for her work around vulnerability and shame. How does this connect to leadership in the workplace?
Yes. So I think she's one of the only ones that really connects vulnerability, shame to leadership. But if you think about it, first and foremost, we're human beings. And in the workplace, we're human beings as well. So we do get triggered by shame. We do get triggered by vulnerability. We do have to manage the physiology of those emotions. So she's actually teaching leaders to recognize when they're in shame, recognize what vulnerability is and what it isn't, so that they can show up as better leaders. And I think it's a huge missing link in leadership development, that skill set of managing your ability to stay in the arena, if you will, even if you've experienced shame or even if you're feeling vulnerable. So she's just made a really beautiful connection between that and leadership. And one of the things we talk about in the workshop is the single greatest thing that will take you out of your leadership integrity is if you're in shame. and you're experiencing shame. So you
Mhm.
have to know what it is and you have to be able to recognize it.
Right, because if you never recognize it, then you can't get past it.
And
And
you
you're not
can't
even aware
control
that
it.
you're treating people that way. And I'm sure that's a lot of it.
Absolutely. And it drives so much of the unhealthy behavior that works in the work that happens in the workplace.
Right.
So much of that is driven by shame.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's more discussion about that now too. And there's more help. There's just more opportunities than there ever was, even when I started working in the field,
Yes.
longer than I'd like to admit, but
Yes. Completely agree. Completely agree.
so wonderful. Well, thank you so much for hosting this event on May 4th. We are really looking forward to it. And I hope everybody who watches this is also looking forward to it. And we hope you sign up. That's always the goal.
Absolutely. Yes. I love the grants profession. I've been in it for a long time and I really love this group of people. So I'm looking forward to it too.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.